How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Fourever Arsenal podcast. Hope you're all good. Hope you're all well. Make sure you hit the like button first and foremost. Let's get it up to 1,000 likes as usual. And love for the love. We're doing these throughout the summer and pre-season as well. And I can see a lot of people in the comment section happy about that. So make sure you show the video some love. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you subscribe to the individual channels too. I've got one. Lee's got one. James has got one. Jordan, you can find everywhere. Channel 4, Talksport, all of that. So if you want to hear more of his negativity, then you can.
Wow. I mean, you're right, but really? Straight away?
My preference has always been the BBC. I don't know what anybody else is saying.
Just was going to say that usually I'm the negative one. So over the last 18 months or so, Jordan's
just agreed off air that he isn't negative. Come on.
No. What you said is correct. I'm just like the first 30 seconds. At least let me say something negative first.
Nah, we're used to it, man. I know what's coming. Big up Jordan, big up Lee, and big up James. James, welcome back for one day. What I want to ask you though, James, is who comes back for one day and then goes back off to holiday? Who does that?
So, can I explain? So basically, I'm actually technically off today, but I love this podcast so much. I thought I'd obviously come back.
Yeah.
Plus, I watched some of last week, so I feel like I need to get back stuck in. But no, I'm off to Silverstone tonight, actually. So I had 1 week away with the family, and then I'm off to Silverstone to watch the F1. I've never done anything kind of like it before, so I'm excited. But I thought while I'm home, I may as well do the podcast and jump in the meeting.
Okay.
Have you not missed me?
My preference is always you.
Thanks.
How can you go dead silent?
I have.
Show's not the same without you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
That's not what you lot were saying last week, but all right, cool. If that's what we're saying to his face, then all right.
Well, yeah. A bit of backstabbing went on last week. I have to say that, like, you know.
Well,
the knives are out, James, like, you know, and I have to say I was the only one in your camp, you know. I have to say that, like, you know.
Jordan had a bone to pick, but we
Go on.
Go on, Jordan. Well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I've got two apologies. Well, one apology and one partial apology. I guess some credit to give someone. So the apology I want to start with is to James, because I went for James last week, and having watched it back, I very rarely think I'm too harsh. But I think I was quite harsh and maybe even a little bit rude. I did start off by saying that I did start off by saying that I was disappointed that James wasn't on the pod, because I'm a big believer in, so you say something, say it to their face. So, you know, me and James are cool, so I was happily could have criticised him to his face. But I was a bit rude, and I'm not a rude person. And it's important to me that, you know, you, James, and you, Turkish, know that I respect you both, and anything you say, your views and your opinions that I disagree with, I always disagree with respect, and that's fine. But you're two people that I wouldn't want to think I'm disrespecting you in any way. So I do want to apologize to you, James, for what I think was probably a little bit too harsh. In my view, I lumped you with a group of fans that maybe was a little bit unfair with my viewpoints on your viewpoints. So I'll get to my credit bit later on with somebody else, but I want to apologize first of all, because I want the viewers to know that you in Turkish I have a lot of respect for.
I do appreciate that, and I think it's right that it's only us two you have respect for. No, I do appreciate that, and actually it was we did talk about it off off camera. It was that I wasn't sure that because I agree with you. I think transfers can get so crazy, and we can start, you're right, almost like feeding this kind of story that kind of blows up. I'm seeing it now with Tchouaméni. Tchouaméni keeps popping up on my timeline, and no reputable source that I've seen has actually linked us with Tchouaméni. So I agree that can happen. I just felt that I wasn't part of that noise necessarily, but I kind of agree with your overall point. But yeah, I was surprised you said that. No, that you were surprised that people were saying that Rice didn't prefer Arsenal, because I mean, I just seen it everywhere from every journalist, pretty much everyone, like even the Ornsteins and Romanas of this world had said he wants Arsenal if that choice is presented. But anyway.
Yeah,
I think on that point, sorry, Chad, just my final point on this one. I think on that Rice wanting to join Arsenal, I mean, it may well be true, and I know David Ornstein and Fabrizio is a very credible journalist as well. So if they're reporting that he has said that, then I'll take that as read.
I think they said it. I know definitely like multiple others, the Times, the Guardian, all that. But yeah, anyway, I think they said it as well.
But my kind of, I guess my point was that the transfer is this period is all one big game. And if there's only at that time one real serious club coming in for him, I mean, there's still people that believe that Mudryk wants to come to Arsenal. And I just don't believe it. I think when there's one person on the table, it makes sense for that individual to say, I want to go to that club. Do you know what I mean? If there's three or four serious teams in for Rice, let's see then if he's talking about when Arsenal's my choice. But when Arsenal are the only serious, credible bidder, then of course he's going to say that. So I'm a bit skeptical about this whole he wants to come to Arsenal. Look, maybe he did, and I want to get to Arteta and the Rice thing, later on. Anyway, I'm sure we will because it's been confirmed now. But I was just a bit skeptical about believing when he says I want to join Arsenal, because that's what I would say. Doesn't mean it's true. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Testament to how far we've come as well, because it's not the first time Rice has been linked with a big move. I think it is the first time he's, pushed for the move. And I guess people can look at his age and where he's at with West Ham and say the timing is right now. It's not necessarily because it's Arsenal coming in, but Arsenal having come in for a big player that many clubs have wanted over the years, putting down a bid big enough after the closest rivals of the previous season, which is Manchester City, put in a big bid of their own, with the treble behind them, with Pep Guardiola, with all the money, and Arsenal still get the deal done. Someone said in the comment section, if we'd done the pod last week an hour or two later, it would have been a very different tone, and it probably would have. But I think I have to agree with Jordan that prior to this Declan Rice deal, can you blame anyone being pessimistic about it all when you look at the history of Arsenal and big transfers and the way we've moved over the years in the Emirates, especially? So that pessimism can only turn around with the club actually getting deals like this over the line. And this is a big one. So, here we are. It is over the line. I think as we sit here now, a medical is on the way. It's due to be booked by the time this comes out. It might be booked. It might be, pretty much here we go, confirmed, as Fabrizio Romano likes to say. But it is pretty much.
I thought it was Turkish last night, midnight.
Fee, I think that was the terms of the fee agreed last night, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. I thought
which means now they can book the medical.
So okay. I think Ornstein said permission from West Ham to have a medical and confirm personal terms, which I think is pretty much all done.
That must mean the structure of the deal is actually.
Yeah, that's all in place now. So it's 3 installments over 24 months, or 2 years. I don't know why I'm trying to sound more clever. 3 installments over 2 years. And then the add-ons. So
forgive me if I'm being really stupid here. So on his pinned tweet, Fabrizio's pinned tweet, it's got him in a picture. I mean, it's for Photoshop, clearly, with him in a shirt. But I thought
Turkish loves the old Photoshop.
Okay.
They're at it again on Twitter. I'm telling you, they're at it again.
So medical to be done. Okay, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Without it being signed, sealed, delivered, it's pretty much signed, sealed, not delivered yet. But we're here. Declan Rice will be a gunner. Timber should shortly follow. Second and third signings after Kai Havertz, and things look very different to how it looked last Tuesday night / Wednesday morning. When Manchester City had made that bid and Arsenal returned with their bid of their own. James, go on. Let's go.
I wanted to ask everyone. So, what do we think of this City bid then? I can't help but feel that, and look, I'm the really positive one, praising the club for their transfer work, probably more than anyone here. But I can't help but feel that I think the statement Arsenal beat City to Rice, I mean, it's true, and I think a lot of it is down to the groundwork we did before, and also we were willing to pay more. But I don't think we, what's the word? Let me put this: I don't think City were desperate for Rice. That doesn't mean that I think that it was a fake bid. I don't believe those rumors. I don't believe that it was, but I do believe that they had a valuation. They liked him. If they could do a 90 million deal, they would have. But ultimately, I don't think they ever really believed it could be done, if that makes sense. So I do think we beat them to it. And I think it was something I was saying on the podcast a few weeks ago. Huge credit to Arteta and Edu for the work they've done in the build-up if they get this over the line. Because I think if both Arsenal and City went in at the exact same time, then I think we likely don't come out with a player. So I think the work they did before, it was clever. They know they can't financially outmuscle City, although we kind of did. But, you know, like I said, really, if they really, really wanted him, we probably couldn't. So the groundwork they did before was great. But I just don't know if City were really kind of, I don't think they did everything to get him. But that's fine. Like, so what? You know, it doesn't matter. They had a valuation they were willing to go above.
100% agree. I wouldn't call it beating City to rise, but City did make a bid. And what I appreciate more than anything out of it all is how Arsenal returned from that City bid. It wasn't a 95 million bid or a 92.5 million. It was 105 million, 15 million added on top. Take it or leave it type of bid. It put Man City off making another bid. And to James's point, Man City have a lot of players. And if the selling club's valuation exceeds that or there is a bidding war, City have shown in the past that they're not interested in all of that. They can go to their plan Bs.
And can I give massive credit to Jordan? It's so funny, you know. So this was day one of my holiday, and I'm walking. It's this lovely place with my family. I'm having a great time, and I've listened to Jordan give his thoughts and everything. The second bit made me turn the podcast off and think, you know what, I'm going to enjoy my holiday. But the first bit, and I was about to put it in the group, but I'm glad I held back now. No, but your prediction of City was entirely spot on, because Turkish asked you whether you thought they'd go back in, and they didn't, and you were right. And then what comes out later in the media is everything you said. They have a valuation, they don't go above it. We saw with Kukurea, I think you might have even referenced that deal. So Arsenal maybe recognized as well the way City do business and thought, okay, like if they have come in around what we offered as well, just better payment terms. So let's blow them out of the water, because they won't come to that, and that's what happened.
Is it a new era? I asked this on Supporters Club the other day, and the reason I ask is because it does feel to me, being a fan that's been on the neck of the owners for so long and trying to keep high standards and wanting Arsenal to compete every year, this is the type of move that indicates a club that wants to win, that wants to, build, that wants to take that next step forward. And the next step forward from where we was last season is winning the major trophy. Lee, I haven't heard much from you. Is it a new era? Does it, no one supported Arsenal longer on the panel than you have. Obviously, we're all surprised it's 100 million bid, but how does it make you feel as an Arsenal fan? Do you think, the door is open to something new for Arsenal in terms of a big spending type of club that goes for the major runners consistently? Or do you think this is just part of the rebuild process to get us to a position where we can?
Absolutely different. This is like a different Arsenal from whenever you want to go to. I can go back. I don't really remember it, but we made a record signing for Malcolm McDonald back in the 70s when we was on the decline a little bit, probably out of desperation. But if you go through the whole of Arsenal's history, they've never been really one of those clubs that's really made the big effort to get the big players. It's happened a couple of times, and I think that the Charlie Nicholas one back in the early 80s was a big one when probably like clubs like Liverpool, Manchester United were going for him, and we blew those teams out the wall with a financial deal and got it. Didn't probably work out as well as what it had because we didn't have the players around it. But what it was a statement, and it pushed us on further down the line. And then I was talking to my mate yesterday about this, and when was the last time Arsenal made a signing that really thought to yourself, wow? And we was going back, we was mentioning players. Thierry Henry probably wasn't like sought after at the time. You can even go to Alexis Sanchez was being prepared to go to Barcelona. Same with Mesut Ozil. Then you look back and go, well, God, like Dennis Bergkamp, another one that was, not things working out at Inter Milan. And it was probably the free transfer of Sol Campbell 20 odd years ago. And look at the excitement that done for Arsenal fans. I remember going into that season when there was a lot of talk about Patrick Vieira leaving. He was like maybe going to be going and everything like that. But as soon as Sol Campbell signed, I knew that Vieira was going to stay, you know what I mean? Because it's just sort of statement thing. And I do think that Arsenal have changed a little bit, like, you know, and what I believe is fantastic at the moment is, for me as an Arsenal fan, I've seen players like Roy Keane, going back to those sort of players, the Agueros, any player that you can think of over the last 10 years that's been up for sale, or we've never even thought, oh, it'd be nice to be even involved in it, let alone get those sort of players.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Declan Rice has come up there, and he is the best midfield player in England, along with Bellingham. You know, like, no one went for Bellingham because Real Madrid had wrapped that up. But there we was in with it, and we've gone and got it. And I think it's a massive statement for the club and everything, because what it's done is, I think last sort of few years, I don't know how people feel about the Cronkies, but like, you know, from myself, I talk for myself. You know, I was at the protests when they were there. Now, if there was a protest tomorrow, I wouldn't go, because I think that they have put their money where their mouth is. Whether it's Arsenal, their money, or Arsenal's money, we've been a little bit in the ascendancy. You know, the signings that we've made over the last couple of years are all players that have come to the football club wanting to come to Arsenal, not because of Champions League football and whatever. As soon as the Champions League comes for the first time, we've gone in with a record bid. So for me, I think there are things differently at Arsenal. I do see Arsenal being a little bit different at this moment in time. The whole club, you know, from the fan bases all together and all that. Of course, winning helps. But I said, you know, last week, you know, Arsenal are a different proposition now. Like, when you look at it, why wouldn't you want to go to Arsenal now? They're a club that's on the up. It's got some very, very exciting young players, which as a player you might want to be involved with. Like, you know, I think we've got exciting forwards. You know, is there anybody better than Xhaka in that position at the moment at his age? No. Same with Saliba. So, you know, we've got a vibrant young goalkeeper that plays the way of the modern game now. You know, we've got good, solid defenders, brilliant midfield players now. If we keep them, I don't know what's going to happen there. And an exciting time for Arsenal. So I do think that it's a very, very exciting time for Arsenal, a different Arsenal. I have to say that it is a different Arsenal at this moment in time. It's an Arsenal that's prepared to spend money, big money, pay over the odds for players. And not just Declan Rice. I think realistically, I'll be honest, we paid over the odds for Ben White, probably Aaron Ramsdale as well. But were we worried when Liverpool were paying over the odds for Van Dijk and everything like that? I wasn't. I was thinking, wow, look, you know, Liverpool being serious. And look what's happened with Liverpool over the last few years. I think now Arsenal are serious. Love it.
About time. Jordan, same question to you. Does it feel like it's a new era? Am I jumping the gun?
Well, can I answer your first question first? The one about, you know, have we beat City to this particular signing? I agree with you, actually, Serkic. I don't think it can be framed as Arsenal have beaten City to the Declan Rice signing, because City made a valuation on the player. They decided that, we like him, but we're not going to go beyond what we think he's worth. If Arsenal want to pay 100+ mil for him, cool, that's up to you guys. So it wasn't an equal fight, if that makes sense. And we won that fight. They pulled out. So I don't think it can be framed as us beating City. However, I think it should be framed as Arsenal signing one of the most sought after players in Europe, definitely in the Premier League. City, I agree with James. I think City did want him. I think they did want him, but they just realised that we don't want him that much. We're not prepared to go to 100 mil to get him, which is fine. That's business. You make a valuation on something, and then you decide how far you're prepared to go. And they kind of pulled out. So I think it's a big signing in that sense. Is it a new era for Arsenal? It does feel like it is. For Arsenal to kind of push and push and push to get this player. Look, you guys know my thoughts on Declan Rice and indeed the fee, but that's irrelevant now. The deal's been done. And it's a big deal for Arsenal to break the British transfer record for a player. That in of itself doesn't mean anything in terms of on the pitch, but it does mean something off the pitch because it shows that Arsenal are prepared to put down money for the players that they want, and then they're not prepared to be outmuscled. So it feels like a new era for sure. Not only because of that deal, but because of, as Lee says, Kai Havertz, 65 mil. Now, we can quibble all day long about whether we rate him, where he's going to play, is it a good fee? But the club feel that this is a guy they're going to spend. 65 mil is a lot of money.
Yeah.
I know we're in the era now of 80, 90, 100, 200, but 65 mil is still a lot of money.
It's our third highest signing.
Yeah, man. I saw a stat that he's the second and third most expensive German to come to the to be signed by a Premier League club. I've forgotten who the first is. He's the second. Is it second and third? His 2 deals, 2 Chelsea and now 2 Arsenal, are the second and third most highest for a German player.
It must be first and second, though, right?
Was it first and second? I thought it was second and third. I don't think who would have been first.
Really struggling for this first.
Ballack and Ozil wasn't that much, and that's the 2.
You know what? Maybe it was first and second. Then
what was Werner? 50 something.
Yeah. But anyway, it's 65 was a lot of money. So the club are trying to move like, you know, we're in this thing. And I do want to give, this is what my partial apology / credit. I wanted to give Arteta and Edu, as James did earlier on, a lot of credit here, because if James, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt here. If James is correct in what he said on the pod that he was on last time, where the groundwork that was done by Edu and Arteta has proven to be the defining factor as to why Rice wants to come to Arsenal, then that is brilliant work. That is brilliant work from the back room, from the hierarchy of the club. That is how you do deals. That's how City did the Haaland deal. That is how Liverpool did the Van Dijk deal. Those deals were done a year early. They were done well before the actual deal was done. And if that is what's proven to be how this deal has been completed, I'm going to give Edu and Arteta massive, and the Kroenkes, they've backed them, massive credit on this one. So fair play to them. And my final point was going to be, I've forgotten, so I will defer. But I think the club deserve a lot of credit for how they're moving. But what I will finally say as well is that it's all got to mean something now. So these signings are great. It's all good having the tag of the most expensive British player in history, blah, blah, blah. Us finished third. It's going to mean nothing. So this has to result in something on the field now.
Yeah, I think that point there about the groundwork done before and you asking whether it's a new era, that I'm hopeful of, you know, knowing how to operate right in the market, knowing what do you have to do? How can you be clever to beat the others who have more money than you? You know, Chelsea, if they wanted to, could have outspent Arsenal for Declan Rice, but they pretty much didn't bother because, you know, by that point, so much work had gone into it. That I really am hopeful of, you know, it being a new era. I also saw a really good point made by Rory Talks Football, who's been on AFTV a few times. He said there has been an upward trajectory with Arsenal. You know, and listen, I'm not trying to glorify these things. Ultimately, your position in the table is your position in the table. But we finished, I think, 8th on 60-something points. You know, United got less than that and finished 6th, like a year later. We finished 5th on something points, and you know, essentially, normally that would have been, you know, had you maybe in the top 4, or certainly in previous years would have had you in the top 4. And last year we got 2nd. There has been, even though it's 8th and 5th before 2nd, and it doesn't sound, you know, maybe in other years that's 6th, 4th, and 2nd. Now, listen, I'm not trying to dress that. What I'm trying to say is there has been progression on the pitch. Arsenal have been improving, and you know that trajectory is what, you know, encourages me. And I do believe that we are in the start of a really encouraging era for Arsenal. I don't think the spending, though, is particularly indicative of that, because yes, we've broken the transfer record for a British player, and we spent 105 million. That's amazing. I don't think that's going to be. I don't think next year now it's, well, who's going to be our first £150 million player, and how do we keep spending more and more, and you know, do the Kroenkes keep? I think there will be a period of, right, you've now got this group of players that all get into 25, 26 years old. You've got some real assets there. You're going to have £100 million budget, and any more than that, got to be clever with this. I think there will be a self-sustaining model that comes in. Yeah, go on, John.
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to remember my point now, which you reminded me there. It's the money. I'm really interested to know where the money's coming from, because when you think we've not had Champions League money coming in for 7 years, we've written off some expensive players in the last 5 years in terms of paid off Aubameyang, paid off Özil, paid off, I think it was Socrates. Mustafi was sold. Kolasinac, I think we cut his contract. So we've written off a lot of money from players in the last few years, as well as having no Champions League money. I'm to Lee's point earlier on. I don't know where the money's coming from other than the Cronkies. I can't think where this money is coming from unless the Cronkies are putting this money in. I could be wrong.
So I don't want to. Obviously, when we're talking about things like this, I don't want to be wrong about it. But a football finance expert on Sky Sports did say that Arsenal are running a really good wage structure, something like 100 to 150 million pound less than Liverpool's wage bill or whatever. And that has allowed Arsenal to be flexible in the market because they have sort of got things like that in line. Another thing, and I encourage everyone to go see Gunner Blog's channel. He spoke about the fact that they're was it Gunner Blog? Anyway, he has spoken on the deal brilliantly, so go watch that anyway. But someone did say, and I saw on Twitter, that there will have been kind of favourable interest loans with the Cronkies potentially that would have helped this happen. So
they bought the stadium, didn't they? They bought the stadium loan as well. They took that on.
They paid it.
And I think what it is favourable loans, which is, a good way of going around doing business now, isn't it? Like, so I think that they have put their money down. I think they have done that, like, without a shadow of a doubt.
Look, huge credit.
I quickly say about the Man City thing, like, I said it last week and I say it again. You know what I mean? Like, when you're going into negotiations and all that, if you know a club really, really wants you, it is an influence on you. And I do believe with Manchester City that they've shown no interest in Declan Rice up until they lost players, and that I think that was a key for it. I do think that was a key. I think that he's thought like, Arsenal have wanted me from January onwards and have set me, Edu and Arteta, I think, because they're former players, they've told, they know what the player wants and what goes on in a player's mind, and have gone down that route of like, we want you here, you're going to be this and going to be that. I think it does, does have a big influence on it. It does, when you're talking to and I think that at the end of the day, Man City come in, and I honestly think that it come down to it. He goes, do they really, really want me? Where I know that Arsenal really, really do. I think that's a big key factor.
I'm not as convinced as Lee is with that. Lee, you could be right. You could be totally right. I'm not sure, because what we're saying there is that Declan Rice values loyalty highly, and that may be true. He may have given Edu and Arteta his word in January. Look, yeah, I'm coming to you, and they kept in touch, and he wants to keep his word. That could be true. I just wonder if, despite giving his word to Arsenal, if that is the case, I think if Pep Guardiola comes in for you, albeit late, I'm just not sure if I've given Arteta my word, if that's going to be enough to want to not make you join the Premier League and European champions. You're going to get the same. The wages would have been around the same. The leaving London, I don't really see that as a bigger deal as a lot of people are making out. So you could be right, Lee. Maybe that was the defining factor, that he felt loved and wanted. So I'm not going to say that you're wrong. I'm just questioning if that was the defining factor, because I think if Pep comes calling, even if it's late, I think that's a very, very hard proposition to turn down.
There's a lot more to it. Obviously, it can definitely play a part. London itself can play a part. I know you kind of dismissing that side of things, but London's a major city and is a world-renowned city. And I think Arsenal, on top of now having the money, or seemingly having the money to spend, they can lean on being a London club and offering players the opportunity to play in one of the world's biggest booming cities and so on. These are things that, Chelsea have played on over the years as well with their money and so on. But I want to go back to what James said about the fee. And for me, the fee is indicative because of what Jordan said. For so many years under this ownership, we'd sell our best players. would buy reinforcements that weren't quite good enough, and our expectations heading into every season were leveled out a little bit because of our business. There was always an excuse or excuses more often than not. We always knew what our potential downfall could be going into a season. What this 100 million fee does is increase the expectation, like Jordan said. It increases the pressure. Now it's we must. Opposition fans were saying we must a hell of a lot at the end of last season. I disagreed with that because of what was our expectations at the beginning of the season. Now, at the beginning of the upcoming season, the expectations are to win, to challenge, if not win, the Premier League, to get a higher points tally than we did last season. Because if you get a higher points tally, then you're definitely challenging and you're definitely in with a shot to win it. So now heading into this season, finally, as an Arsenal fan, I can be like, we need to go for the league. And there is no excuses. There is no now. If we sell Partey and Xhaka in the next coming weeks, that's when I'm gonna have a bit of a problem with it all and the landscape of things going into next year. Maybe that's where we move on to next because it's the midfield situation. Xhaka apparently a fee agreed with Bayer Leverkusen increased 21.5 million. So I guess credit to Edu there as well for getting a higher price. But with the Partey links as well, I just can't help but feel right now it's 2 steps forward. But if we lose Xhaka and Partey, that's potentially 3 steps back. If it could be 2 steps back. But what we needed to do this summer is take the steps forward without taking any back. And I'm just weary about the Partey and Xhaka stuff and just hoping that we keep one of them. Ideally, it would have been Partey for me, but at this moment in time, I don't care which one it is. I think we need to keep one, James.
I'm so with you because, look, I understand that opportunities come up in a market. Maybe they never thought they could get, near 40 million or whatever has been quoted for Partey and 22 million for Xhaka. I think we'd have all agreed going into the window that if those fees and those offers came in, that we'd all pay attention to them. But look how long it took for Thomas Partey to get fully comfortable in that number 6 role. It's not that easy. Even Rodri didn't even start the Champions League final because, he wasn't a complete shoo-in in that Man City team. And, it took him a year to fully get to his best in that 6th role, the way, Pep and Arteta, use it. I'm not sure. And you asked about the new era stuff as well. And, I said, yeah, I think it is. I do believe it is. I'm very optimistic it is. But can you lose kind of the 2 midfielders that are your core? Odegaard is the main guy, but I'm saying at your core, at the base of it all, can you lose those 2 senior players, experienced players, and maybe replace them with like for like better players? But do they just hit the ground running? Does it all just run like clockwork again? I'm not sure it does.
And it's depth as well, James. I mean, you can replace like for like or upgrade, but part of the problem last season was the players coming in for them when called upon wasn't of the necessary quality.
I agree, and I think Arsenal are looking for one more midfielder, even without losing both. Like I think, say Xhaka goes, which looks like he is, and Partey staying, I think they're still looking at one more midfielder because these Lavia links don't go away or whatever. Then I have questions over the balance of the midfield. What, so Partey, Lavia, Jorginho, that's 2 6s to me. And what is Havertz going to be an 8? I still struggle to see that. So I think there's still a lot of questions about midfield. So look, I'm really excited about next season. I can't wait to see how Havertz is used. I'm just really intrigued by that. I love the Rice signing. I'm really excited about the Timber one as well. And in a bit, we're going to talk about fullbacks as well, because that sparked a whole new discussion. Yeah. But I can't say I fully see the vision in terms of how this team looks next season. And that does put the handbrake on a little bit for me when it comes to sort of being ultra excited about our chances of winning major silverware next year. Now, if you tell me, well, one of Partey or Xhaka stays, then we had another midfielder, I'm thinking, okay, cool. The midfield then's looking really bolstered and nice next season. But if both leave, I'm slightly hesitant. Yeah.
Lee?
Two things on Thomas Partey, like, one, does he want to stay or does he want to get a bigger contract? Because I think things like that have got to be said. Also, like, this is a player that's got 2 years left of his contract. We've been saying over the last, can't let players go into 1 year left of their contracts and things like that. So you have to look at it from the business side.
Good point.
From the playing side, I think he's a fantastic player. I've got to say, I'm a massive fan of Thomas Partey when he is 100% fit. But when is he 100% fit? Not all the time. Now, this is a player I think that can play once a week and he'd be fantastic. But does that disrupt things going forward? You know, when you're playing in 1 week and 1 week not, and a player that wants to play week in, week out. I think towards the end of last season, guys, I don't think he was 100% fit. And that's why his performances dropped a little bit. Like, this is a player that can't keep himself fit. But if I had the choice, I would 100% keep him, like, you know what I mean, for the next year, 2 years, and let his contract run out. But there is that business side of it now where we have to sort of look to get him money. Now, if we can get big money for Partey, this is where people go, oh, we don't want to lose Thomas Partey and everything like that. If you can get big money for Thomas Partey, and I mean big money, or get back what you had from him over the last 4 years or whatever, and then bring in a younger player that can play 2 games a week and all that, I don't think it's a bad thing. And when people turn around and go, oh, like, you know, Thomas Partey's great, and you know, like, as soon as someone else comes along, it's like we move on. You don't move on. It's just that is football. Football evolves. You know what I mean? Players get to a certain standard and then they drop. It's the way it is, and you have to be a little bit ruthless in football. Like, you don't think Pep's not been ruthless to certain players? Mourinho in his day and all the top teams, you know, there comes a time. I remember when Patrick Vieira left Arsenal, 29 years of age, I was fuming. Never quite hit the heights anywhere else, did he? You know what I mean? And sometimes you've got to be a little bit ruthless, you know what I mean?
Right.
And, that's how I feel about it. I'm a big Thomas Partey fan. Would I want to keep him? Yeah. But if a younger player comes along, then, you know, we move.
Let's flirt with the Tchouaméni idea. Look, I don't believe there's a lot in it, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility that a player that wasn't starting week in, week out for Real Madrid last year, after they spent 100 million on Bellingham, maybe becomes available. I mean, that is a player who's a great age. Was he 23, 24? Starts for France, got to the World Cup final, been playing for Real Madrid. Is Xhaka and Partey out, and then Tchouaméni, Rice, Havertz in? Is that an improvement in our midfield going into next
100%. 100%.
Quality wise, yeah. But then the worry is, James, is the same worry from last season and the season before. Is where does the experience come into it? I know there's been a whole heap of noise about sell-on values and all of this stuff, but there's a certain type of player you buy, and if it's in their late 20s or coming up to their late 20s, I don't think you're buying them for sell-on value. We bought Partey for what, 50 million when he was 27 years of age. That's not a player I looked at coming in as, yes, we can sell him for a good fee in 4 or 5 years. That's a player that I thought would come in, potentially see out his contract, maybe get a couple of years extension depending on the way situations are going, and he can help guide as well. If we lose Partey, Xhaka, and I hope Rob Holding goes as well, who is the oldest player in our squad?
Oh, I agree.
Jorginho?
Jorginho's one that's going to come in there.
He's got experience.
He's got experience, though, Turkish. He knows what it's like to win games. Sometimes it's not about what you do on the pitch as well. Of course it is, but it's also what you do off the pitch, how you train, how you go about things and everything like that when the pressure's on. Look, when I look at Jorginho, I don't know how people feel about it, but my perspective in changed when we was at Newcastle under the Kosh. He was the player that said, yeah, we've got to enjoy this, and I think that's a good thing for young players to look on and go, wow, look at that, you know what I mean, like, not to be afraid in places like this, let's go and enjoy it. So I think things like that. I would like, if we kept the midfield that we've got now, I think it'd be fantastic. Xhaka,
I agree,
and Partey with what we've got now. That is an exciting midfield.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you know, Xhaka wants to go. I don't really get that. Why would you want to go now when this could be the time you could win titles? Maybe it's because they're not going to be looking to play week in, week out. I don't know. You know,
I think it's the contract length. I think he wants to secure one final long contract, and Arsenal, I think, are offering us 2 years.
Couldn't you do it on a free?
Yeah,
you know,
that wouldn't come for a few years, I guess. But Lee, I agree with you. If Timber, Havertz, and Rice were our only signings, and there were no outgoings, I wouldn't call it a perfect window, but I'd be very happy with that.
Yes,
you've got a new right back / centre back. You've got and you 8/forward, and then you've got an all-action midfielder, I'd be really happy with that. I still think, yes, it's not perfect, but largely I'd be really good with that. But I just think
I agree. I think the one thing that I think Turkish is saying, which is right, is if we was to sell Partey and Xhaka, we're in the same position as we were last season. We're an injury away from being like Jorginho and El Neni, which we was this season. So I get that worry. Like if we was to sign those players that we've got now, if Partey got injured, you've got Declan Rice. There isn't a worry. I could sit there and be. I wasn't relaxed last season. That's something. Every time Partey went down or something, it was a meltdown in the fan base because we knew that the drop off from him was too big. You know what I mean? Like, so that is my concern. That is my concern.
I think your first point, Lee, was bang on as well about whether Partey wants to be at Arsenal. Because I think if Arteta's anything like Pep Guardiola, I think wanting to be at the club is really important.
Yeah.
That's almost as important as how good a player you are. So I think if Arteta's got a sniff that Partey doesn't really want to be at Arsenal, I think he's like, you know what, you can go. It's fine. I think that combined with your second point about the financial and the business element of, you know what, has Partey peaked? Was last year the best year, or the last and final really good year from Partey? And we'll see a decline. If we can get 40 mil, as good a player as he is, it's about business as well. So I think your 2 points have kind of nailed it on as well. But I agree with the three of you that those two going out and two coming in, even if the two coming in are better, I just think it's the Champions League, we can't rotate. In the Europa League, you can rotate your squad and rest your first teamers for the weekend game. You can't, in the Champions League, you can't do that. So I am a bit concerned about the numbers as well if those two players go. But I understand it. I understand why they'd move on those two players. I think it's really important to Arteta that you want to be here. You really want to be here. But the age profile, as Turkish mentions, is a slight concern for me as well.
Yeah, it would have to be another superstar incoming.
Yeah, I agree.
If you lose those two,
I think Milinkovic-Savic, 50 mil, 28 years of age.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, what's interesting, and this is where Rice again. So I think he's such brilliant. I was about to say value. I mean, we've spent 105 million, but I think if Partey and Xhaka go, I think it gives Arsenal a degree of flexibility in the market in terms of, are we going for a 6 or an 8? If that superstar 8 is out there, okay, not Gundogan, but someone who's, top level, and I can't really think of many, then you see Rice as more of a defensive midfielder where a lot of people feel that's where he naturally belongs. If there is a Caicedo, a Tchouaméni on the market, then Rice can play more as that box-to-box, and you can kind of play around with that. The Lavia one, and I did an in focus on him on AFTV, and I said in that video, this was before Liverpool were more strongly in for him, so everyone in the comments, I'm not saying it now just because it doesn't look like we're going to get him, but I said I just had concerns, is it really an improvement to lose Partey and Xhaka? And okay, cool, you've added Rice, who I think Rice is better than all those players on that list. Havertz, lots of questions. Lavia's 19. And actually, he's not played that. He's only played out 600 less minutes of Premier League football than Caicedo, which is interesting. But I don't know if you go into a Champions League and Premier League season where there's a lot of expectation to do big things in both, and putting it all on a 19-year-old is really the right way. I think the beauty of Tchouaméni is a good age with his best to come, and he has played in a World Cup final, and he has played for Real Madrid.
The quality he has, I mean, if he's available, you go for him. But if we're talking age profile, that's why I bring in Milinkovic-Savic, because I think in Champions League especially, you need a bit of experience, a bit of know-how to help guide the young ones through. So yeah, I'd want to bring in someone with a higher age profile with a bit more experience. But like, if Tchouaméni's available, I don't believe the rumors. Especially a year after signing. Real don't necessarily, they're not that team that does that, spend big money and then sell a year later. Yeah, I just don't see it. But there is options out there, Jordan.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, the Tchouaméni deal, I don't think it will happen. But I'm not dismissing it completely either, because the board and the club are showing us they're serious. So if on deadline day that deal got done, I wouldn't be stunned. But if I could just kind of link what we're saying here to kind of going back to what we discussed earlier on about the club doing their homework and getting stuff done, to the Mbappe rumours as well. Now, again, there's a lot of fun being had about Mbappe to Arsenal. I saw your video, Turkish, talking about Mbappe and the possibility of that happening or not. But I just think if this is a new era, as you put it, Turkish, why can Arsenal not start doing the groundwork now to sign him next summer?
Mm-hmm.
I think he will go to Real Madrid. I'll just be very clear. I don't want to be clipped up, and I think he will go to Real Madrid. But if we're moving like a big club now, this is a new era, and we can financially afford Kylian Mbappe, why can't the club start putting the groundwork in now for next summer to sign him, if we're serious about being a big club again? So the Mbappe stuff, everyone laughed it off and like, oh no, it's never going to happen. And I don't think it will happen. But again, like Tchouaméni this summer, I don't think it's an impossible deal to do. I really don't.
It's not impossible. I think, Chris Hudson said it best on Supporters Club. We've been programmed under this, ownership, and over the years, not just this ownership, the way Arsenal have always conducted business. We've never really been the biggest flexers. But if this is the era we're entering, and we have got that sort of money, and we can spend 105 million on a Declan Rice, and we can give the wages of 350k plus, because we've done that for years with Ober and Ozu and so on. Why can't we? The only thing stopping us is ambition and/or heritage. And by heritage, I mean when Real come knocking for players, more often than not, Real get the players they want. But I just want Arsenal's name to be in the hat. That if things don't work out, then Arsenal are there to, all right, it sounds like a favour. Get Henry on the phone. Get Henry to call Kylian and say, listen,
let's go.
We can make something out of this. We can, pass the torch, and I can see the adverts already.
It'll be $500,000 a week. And I think that's I mean, Arsenal can afford that, but whether they will, because it'll be a free, right? Next year it'll be a free.
It'll be a free transfer. You wouldn't be able to get him on with a price, but a free transfer.
Yeah. So the only thing that makes me think he won't come is A, as you say, Turkish, Real Madrid being in the mix as well. But secondly, it's the optics of paying a player $500,000 a week. I'm not sure Arsenal would want to do that.
The Cronkies are no strangers to
Jokic, NBA,
to signing the most expensive player in the division.
Jokic in NBA, Jordan. He's the highest paid NBA player.
Yeah, that's true.
Ever.
Yeah, I think they did the same with the Rams. I think the Rams had a couple extremely expensive assets in their team to get it over the line.
And Mbappe is the type of player that Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, Declan Rice, Saliba would understand if he's on double their wages or, a considerably higher amount. If they don't understand it, then they don't want to win.
Well, they'd be on a higher wage because he hasn't got a transfer fee. So basically what they're turning around and say is like the transfer fee of, say, 100 million wouldn't be going to PSG or West Ham, say, like with the Declan Rice. It'd be going to him. So they'd say to him, look, there's 100 million. I don't know how it would work. They go, look, you're going to get like 60 million from the transfer fee and the rest is made up from wages, sign-on fee and things like that. Yeah. There's ways around that side of it and all that. But the reason that we're not in the talk, why Manchester City in for Haaland? Why are Chelsea getting all their big players? The reason they got all those big players is they started somewhere. They started with players and, I remember Manchester City signing Robinho. Weren't the greatest one and whatever, like, you know what I mean? But what it done was it starts the momentum going. And that's what Arsenal have done now with Declan Rice. That's what they've done. They've put a marker out. It's a marker. Like, I'm not saying that we're going to get Mbappe in a cut, but there might be somebody else bigger like going to come along. Like, and I do think that there is that thing there. And I also think with, like you say about, and I think this is a very, very good point. And Charlie Nicholas made this, when he signed for Arsenal. When he signed for Arsenal, he was 21 years of age, and all the other players were 27, 28, 29, all married and things like that. And he felt isolated and lonely at this time. So flip that around. That if you're a 28, 29, like a Xhaka at the moment, a Partey, they might feel a little bit out of it, where everybody's the whole squad are in 21, 20 to 24. So that, it's a little bit of a balancing thing, like, I mean, so if you can get somebody in at 23, 24, they can grow together, like, so I think that's a key as well.
But it's also winning things. Like Liverpool not long ago were linked to Mbappe, and that wasn't really laughed off by many people because they'd won the Champions League and got to 3 Champions League finals, and they'd won the Premier League title. If they had Mbappe, they might well have won one more. That's what it is. So I understand that rival fans are laughing at our suggestions. I think when you look at what Kroenkes have done with other clubs, and obviously we hold Arsenal as a football club to an incredibly high standard, and we believe we support one of the biggest clubs in the world, and actually I think most fans would agree with that. Certainly the biggest club in London. But if we are in March, April next year, let's say, and I don't think this will happen, but let's say we do something a little bit like what Liverpool did when they won their first title, where by March you knew they'd won it. They pulled away. City had a bit of an off year, and they were just unbelievable. Now, look, that would take something special because that run was unreal. But let's just say we're looking in a really good position. Let's say we're in a Champions League quarter-final, and our draw looks really decent for the quarters and the semis. A little bit like Inter Milan's or something, for example. That just gives you a lot more strength when you do actually pick up that phone. Maybe Kieran doesn't go, no thanks, and actually goes, well, let me hear you out. And then the talks sort of begin, and then they go into the summer where the season's done, and who knows where you are. Maybe you've claimed one of those major honours. That's the difference. Win the big things, and you can get them. That's City got Haaland because they've been winning titles. It's as simple as that. If they had all this growth, played all this brilliant football, but they never quite got over the line, they wouldn't have got Erling Haaland.
Yeah, that's what I said in the video that Jordan referenced. I mean, if Arsenal go on to win the Premier League, and not even win, I think if Arsenal go on to challenge, and like James said in March, maybe not first, but even second, with a glimmer of hope to overtake a Manchester City in first. If we're in the Champions League quarterfinals, semi-finals, then Mbappe or players like that can look and think, I'm going to be the deciding factor to take this club from where they are on the cusp to winning it and getting both hands on the trophies. And it comes down to what, the players, i.e. Mbappe as a character, would want. Because, a lot of people will dismiss it. A lot of people have laughed at it already. But 2 years challenging, competing at the highest level of the Premier League, on top of that, going far in the Champions League is a great platform to bring in top talent. Obviously, winning it makes it a lot easier because you've got one in the bank. But being up there again is the bare minimum I expect, and I hope that can attract these sorts of players.
The greatest thing, Turkish, is in football, and a year ago now, we was turning around and going, if someone, either one of us on here, would turn around and say Arsenal are going to win the Premier League, would have been laughed at. Right? Okay. Roll on a year. If you turn around now and said, like, I think Arsenal can win the Premier League, I don't think you're going to get laughed at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a serious conversation now. And it's the same with transfers. 2 years ago, if you'd have said you'd have been in for Declan Rice, people would have laughed at you. A year later, we've got him. People would still laugh about Mbappe or whoever at this moment in time. But give it another year, who knows? You know what I mean? That's the greatest thing that we're in. Whether you like it or not at the moment, we're in the conversations of a lot of things at this moment in time. Why? Because we challenged Manchester City last season. I don't see other teams being talked like that because you know what? They didn't challenge for it. And that is the big thing, guys. You know what I mean? Once you're like Liverpool, for instance, 2 years ago, were a massive, why would you want to go to Arsenal? You've got to go to Liverpool. And I get that. They're not saying that so much now, like, you know what I mean? Still a very good big club and whatever, like, but because Liverpool just drops off a little bit. If Liverpool, with their signings and that, come back challenging again, it'll be, got to go to Liverpool, like, So I think that, we put ourselves in a position for one good season. What we need now is to back that up. And if we can back that up,
we have to back it up.
We have to back it up.
That's why I worry about these midfielders going out.
Serious.
If we're looking at recent history and trajectory and looking forward, then Arsenal are easily a top 5 club in Europe, attractivity wise, 100%.
Yeah, I'd agree.
You win a Premier League, that goes to potentially a top 3 with the money we can spend, the money in the league, the major trophy in the bank. So we'll see. This season's a big one. Obviously, Mbappe might still make a move this summer. And we're not necessarily just talking about Mbappe. We're talking about being in the in the hat for the biggest and best players in world football. So
Yeah.
Just quickly, like on that, Manchester United are not linked with any of those big superstars no more. Why? Because they're not at the top
Not
of their
performing.
game at the moment. So, yeah, they're
Yeah.
not performing.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Simple
they
as
would be. As simple as that. If Man United start performing, they'll be linked with all the big guns because they're a massive football club. The reason they're not is because they're underperforming.
They were linked with Frank de Jong last summer, to be fair. But yeah, I take your point, Lee. You're right. You're right.
But he said no all summer, which kind of goes back to the point that they're not what they used to be.
True.
No
Can
one
I
is
just make
saying no to United.
Can I make a super quick? I forgot what it was now. Let's move on. Sorry.
This guy interrupted me.
I know. And I
Saying
think my point.
He forgot what he wanted to interrupt me about. Cool. And before we do comments of the day, because we're coming up to 1 hour, a lot of right back links still. Timber on the way shortly after the Declan Rice deal gets confirmed. I'm sure the Timber deal will follow. A player that can play right back, right sided centre back, player that can invert, compose on the ball. But the links to right backs don't stop. The Cancelo links have resurfaced again, saying he's still one of our top targets. Benjamin Henriks and more recently Jeremy Frimpong have all been linked, and they're all right backs. Different profile right backs. I believe Frimpong is more of a old school type of fullback who get up and down the line, not necessarily inverted. We know what Cancelo's all about. I don't know too much about Henriks, but do you believe these right back rumors, or is Timber
I do. I believe we're in for a right back. There's been so many of it. There's so much.
It doesn't make sense though, James. We've got three right backs already before Timber.
Doesn't make any sense. I'm with you. Doesn't make any sense.
Unless they're going to sell a left back.
Well, no, I don't know. I don't really get it. I do think that it wasn't that long ago that Arteta's system was all about getting Tierney really high up and down that pitch. I mean, even just a season before when he had Smith Rowe playing on that side, they had a nice little dynamic. So Arteta's always just switching and playing around with it and messing things around. You know, could he want a more attacking right back potentially? Like you said, Frimpong, I'm no expert, but yeah, I do think from the very little I know, he is more of an overlapper. And actually, until Pep got his hands on Cancelo, he was an overlapper, like a really attacking, skillful, flary right back. And I don't think these Cancelo rumors don't go away. And more crucially, he's not ended up anywhere else. And I know there's rumors about how it ended with him in City. He's just too good to have not been picked up. Surely by now, it wasn't a year ago. He was the best fullback in the league, according to some. So I think Arsenal maybe are wanting to add. I think I did read one of the reports was saying that Arsenal do want to add more of an overlapper, not just someone who inverts and cuts inside. You're leaving yourself with a lot of options, but I'm not going to complain because I like them all. I would
have liked to see Brooke Norton-Coffey get that opportunity. Isn't he the overlapping type of fullback? And he's got a lot of credit over the last couple of years. So I don't believe these rumors. I think we're stacked in that department, and if we want another option, we have one internally.
I feel we could go for Cancelo if we sell Tierney, because Cancelo can play left back as well.
I'd like a left back personally. So if Tierney goes,
I know, but I just feel like
is he definitely going?
No rumors.
No, I don't know. It's gone very, very quiet on the Tierney situation. If I was Tierney, I wouldn't have been very happy last season. I'm just looking at it from a player's point of view. Like there were times last season when I think, right, I'm going to be playing this week, and he brought in Tommy Asu to play there. And then towards the end of last season, right, Zinchenko's out. I'm the automatic one to come in, and he started playing Kivia there, So if I was Tierney, I wouldn't be too happy. But he might be saying to him, look, Champions League's different game, different scenario where I'm going to have to look to defend and sit in, so you become a key player. I don't know. You know what I mean? Sometimes that can happen. But if they were to sell Tierney, I can see them going for that sort of right back.
Do you remember, Jordan? You know what you said last week about sometimes we just feed these kind of rumors and stories, and we talk about it so long to the point where it almost just feels like it's true, and then actually stop and go, whoever said that? Actually, I mean, is there a little bit of something in that in Kieran Tierney? We've all kind of just said that Arteta doesn't really want him. Now, look, it's based off the fact that he barely played last season, and Kivior or Tomiyasu all start at left back. We've even seen Xhaka at times. But who's to say that he didn't just for 1 year not want to approach the game tactically that way? Because we also know that when he arrived, Arteta, singled out Tierney as an amazing trainer. Like, what, he trains like he plays, and he loved him for it. And whenever fit, always playing in the team and made the way we attack crucial to, made Kieran Tierney crucial to the way Arsenal attacked for a year and a half, 2 years when he was in the side. So who's to say that he still loves him? But last year he did something a little different. We've seen sometimes that Mahrez isn't in favour at City, and then a year after he is. Bernardo Silva gets used in all sorts of different positions by Pep, and he kind of just changes it year on year. Who's to say that maybe next year we do see the overlapping fullbacks return in some way, shape, or form? I don't know. I just wonder.
I think you're right. I think the problem is that Arteta, I think, feels that. Can you think how someone feels? No, you can't. I think, and I would guess, is thinking that I can't have you as my first choice left back because of his injury problems. So if you're not going to be my first choice left back, are you going to? He's too good to be a backup left back, if that makes sense. So I wonder if he feels that, you know what, you're too good to be on my bench, but at the same time, you're not fit enough on a regular basis to be my first choice. I think if he was fit, I think he's in. It's not a thing. I know he can't do the inverted thing in the way that Zinchenko does, but I think he would start more. But I wonder if he might be prepared to let him go, because it's like, I can get 40 mil for you for a guy that I'm not going to use that much. And it might be the whole Pep, again, I know I keep mentioning Pep, but it might be the whole Pep mentality of, I don't want to hold back your career. You should be playing first choice for 15 of the 20 Premier League clubs. It's just at the top 5, maybe your fitness is a problem. So, but yeah, to your point, who says Tierney's leaving? I've not seen any concrete, quotes that say, I want Tierney to leave this club, or Tierney, I want to leave this club. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, crucial. Go on, Lee. Sorry.
No, Joel makes a great point there about the injury. Like, he'd never done any pre-season last time, did he? Like, He was like injured for it all. So he didn't play at all in the pre-season. You remember, he was in America. He trained. Maybe like they looked at it and said, you know what, you won't play so much this year. What we're going to do is build you up. Like, just train, build you up. I don't know. There might have been a conversation of that, because
maybe
that's a great point about his injury. It just come up. He never done a pre-season, did he? So, injuries may be a thing, and then he's like, we're not going to push your body this much this season. We're going to build you up for the future.
I'd keep him.
Would be in that category.
Yeah.
Well, also, and there's one last thing I will chuck into this is what have we learned about Edu and Arsenal selling policy in the last week. Balogun's valued at 50 million, which I think we're all happy with, and the Xhaka deal got over the line for 21.5 when originally looked like 13. Have Arsenal maybe just put a price tag on Tierney that is too high for some? And I'd be happy with that, by the way. Like, stop selling these really good players for nothing.
How many players do we look at on City's bench and say what Jordan said about Tierney? He's too good to be on the bench. That's what we're competing with. Real Madrid the same, and then all the great teams over the years. You look at their bench and think, I'm sure he'll get more minutes somewhere else. But keeping Kieran Tierney, especially after the potential sales of Xhaka and Partey, not because they're the same position, because they're not, but there's a certain level of stability you need from one season to the next, especially when that one season is competing at the top. And I was resigned to losing Tierney coming into this summer, but I didn't expect to lose Xhaka and Partey. Now it looks like Xhaka and Partey might be going, keep hold of Kieran Tierney.
I'd keep him anyway. I'd be selfish. Sure, I know it's better for his career to move on and play 34 games a season if he can do that for another Premier League club. But I'd be like, nah, bro. I'm sorry, you're staying right here because I will need you at some point, and your quality. So I'd keep him.
And how often do we say, how long will Bernardo be at City when he's sort of in and out the team and using different roles? How Laporte, surely he'll be gone, and Mahrez, and look, they've just signed Vardy or are about to. So yeah, it looks that way. But look, these players are still there. They're returning to pre-season now.
Speaking, sorry, Speaking of Carvalho, the Laporte deal, was that for next week's pod? Maybe the links with us and Laporte. Are you guys interested in?
The less said about that, the better. I don't want to talk about those distance. I'll be honest.
Well, do you don't like the Laporte links?
Nah, man. How many players do you want to take off City now?
No, I agree. Actually, I agree. I don't think they're real. We've got Kivior and Gabriel, and we're just signing Timber.
Yeah, we'll
and Tomiyasu and White can all play centre back. I don't believe it.
I think that's.
But we just spoke for 5 minutes
something
about
in Cancelo.
right backs. We're stacked at right backs, and we entertain that talk.
We're not stacked with overlapping right backs that maraud up and down the pitch.
We've got 5 right backs in the club, James. 5.
Well,
We've got 5, and we're linked with more.
yeah, kind of hear it.
5 right backs.
Who knows what Arteta's plan is? But we move. We've passed an hour, people. So as always, hopefully by now, if you scroll down, you see over 1,000 likes. If you don't, hit the like button. If you do, still hit the like button, people. Show some love. Leave your comments, because we always end with comments of the day, and that's what we're about to end with. Does everyone have comments ready?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of nods. All right,
Yep.
Jordan, you nodded first, so go ahead.
I've got to say, the comments were crap last week, but this week they were really, really, really good. You guys are back on form this week. There was a lot of heat for people talking about us being miserable on last week's pod, and maybe they had a bit of a point.
Yeah, sorry about all those. Didn't mean to. I was bored on the beach.
There's some good ones. One here from Callum Waddle says James would have tore Jordan a new one. I like that one.
I don't know if I would have, man. I think you're very, you've had the Channel 4, you've had the TalkSport experience. I saw you on TalkSport the other day. I might have crumbled under the pressure. I might have bottled it, but I like to think I'd have given it a go.
Not at all. There were so many good ones. I'm scrolling through. Does someone else want to go and pick up while I try and go through some of these?
Can I come in with this?
Go on.
Because it's so great. It's from Sol Sloaney AFC. Are we really letting the judge get away with Kyle Havertz?
Yeah.
James would never. It's a 3-letter name for crying out loud.
I never knew I said that. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of, you know what I mean? Just a slip of the tongue, that one. Like, So.
I just love that James would never. He's so right. Kyle.
I don't even know that I've done that. You know what I mean? Very, very similar as well. Like, you know what I mean? While we're talking about that, I've got to say, I think it is a brilliant comment and got 20 replies to it as well. So Arsenal focusing on signing English players so Lee can pronounce their names. Edu York, you know what I mean? It's absolutely fantastic. And I did have a word with Edu and I said to him, sign a couple of English players. So,
yeah, wait till
I still see Ben Rice, you know what I mean? So Ben Rice.
I was thinking more Dylan Rice or something like that, but you know what? Whatever you like, Lee.
Yeah.
I've got one here from Kulakani, his name is, and it's quite a long one, but I'm just going to pick out the first sentence because I actually, it made me laugh. He says, this Jordan guy could squeeze water out of a rock and he could throw a rock on the ground and miss. Kulakani, big up for that comment.
I don't really get it, but I like it.
I get it.
I think I know what you're trying to say. He's
saying Jordan talks shit, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the translation.
He wasn't the only one as well. I've got another one here. Actually, I found here. The people want me and you to fight big time, James. Someone's gonna get in the popcorn for next week's episode when James is back. James sort Jordan out. Another one here. Would have loved to have seen Gunderland sign for Arsenal. I don't remember Lee saying Gunderland. Did you say Gunderland last week, Lee?
Oh, I probably did like that.
I probably did.
We'd have picked it up.
It's not there. I've got to say that no one really knows how to pronounce his name. You know what I mean? Like
Gundogan. I'm Turkish. I'm telling you, it's Gundogan.
Gunderland. There you go.
That's what I said, and everyone said I was wrong.
I'm going to say that now.
He's on a podcast with a Turkish person for the last how many years because no one knows how to pronounce his name.
It's not that hard.
And I will say this: I'm glad we didn't sign that Liverpool player. I'm telling you that now. Like,
oh, mate.
Go on, have a go.
I don't know his name.
Go on, Lee.
I haven't got a clue.
Have you seen Robbie say it?
No, how does he
No.
say it?
Bro, I can't even say how Robbie says it, but I'll
jeez.
show you. I'll show you the clip of Robbie's pronunciation of.
I bet every
Szoboszlai,
scout is
that's my
looking
pronunciation.
forward to singing his name this year. Like, I mean, unbelievable. Like, I mean, I said, "There, do let that one go. Let that one slide. Edu, let that
It
one
was-
slide."
He's
I
a good
think-
player as well.
I think
Very good player.
I think our lovely Cass put it in the group. Zlobloskla, I think, was the
What Robbie's pronunciation? He fucking.
Does anybody want to
Hey.
dare say it on here? Does anybody want to go for it?
Szoboszlai.
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 Slobberslide.
Even that, it could be that. I'm just.
I ain't got a clue.
Szoboszlai.
Szoboszlai. Oh my god! Like, I mean, what's his first name? Rick.
Dominic.
Oh, sorry. It's about to end the podcast. I really shouldn't be extending it. I'm so sorry. But these rumors, and they're quite hot rumors, that there might be a Wenger statue. We might have to talk about that next week.
Yeah, I think that deserves more time than just the end
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
But I just want
cheers,
to
James.
acknowledge. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
No, we'll
Everyone
discuss
get a
that.
drink of water. Strap in for another 50.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that next week, people. James, Lee, Jordan, that is it. An hour, 10 minutes in. Over time, it does tend to happen here and there. And you guys and girls out there watching tend to show some love by hitting the like button. Get it over 1,000 likes. Make sure you subscribe. Put the notification bell on. We are here once a week, every week until the season starts. Then we are here before and after every game, whether it's Premier League, Champions League, League Cup, FA Cup, whatever it is. We are here, and AFTV are covering all of the transfer talk throughout the summer. We're also heading over to the US for preseason, Washington, New Jersey, and LA. Make sure you subscribe because a few of us are going, and you know where you need to be for all the Arsenal stuff. Right here, people. Love for the love. Hit the like button. We are